Hi.
I love it. Literally, as you join the room,
Yeah.
this intruder
Oh,
decided to start cleaning his own asshole.
oh, brilliant. What a babe. I love dogs. Don't worry. I've got two and they're
Oh,
both
lovely.
equally as disgusting. So it's fine.
I look in the background. I'm like, really, dude?
Oh, amazing. He's very cute. What's his name?
His name is Dougie. There's a
Dougie. Hello.
British kids show called Hey Dougie. I don't know if you have young children or whatever, but yeah, that became my became the namesake.
Great.
So yeah, whereabouts are you at the moment?
I'm in Brighton, UK.
Okay, I was wondering what. Are you guys spread around the UK, or are you all kind of in the one area?
So three of us are in the south of the UK. One's about to move to Wales, and then Anna's now in Belgium. We were all in Brighton and London for a while, and now we're sort of mixing it up a little bit. But it works for us because we tend to only practice when we've got a tour. So we sort of write remotely, sending files backwards and forwards, come together for recording, or come together before a tour and just bang it all out and then do it. So, and it's quite fun, like going to each other's places to work. You're like, oh, should we go to Belgium for a little while and hang out there? And then we're like, oh, let's do this in Brighton. So we're quite lucky, really, to be able to do that. So yeah,
I mean, we're lucky to do this. This was science fiction when we were growing up.
right. I
Video
know.
calling with people. Um,
It's so
I was,
funny. I remember when the internet was invented, and you're like, hey, everyone, I know when the internet, I was there when it happened.
yeah,
It's amazing.
38. I can remember the horrible sound of dial-up, and it would take you
Yeah,
30 seconds to load a tiny
yeah,
picture. And
yeah.
now here we are.
I
I was
know.
just video calling with. I was just interviewing one of the guys from the drummer from Sabaton, who was
Oh,
sitting,
cool.
in Sweden with his dog, and I'm like, this, just I've done this literally thousands of times for this publication, and it still blows my mind.
I know. It's
Uh,
brilliant. And you're in Australia, but I don't know where.
I'm in Brisbane. So I grew
Okay.
up in Tasmania, but yes, I've been living in Brisbane for the last 11
Oh
years.
wow, Tasmania, cool.
I know, right? So, yeah, how would you describe I mean, I guess we'll since you were all in Brighton at one point, how would you describe the music scene there?
Uh, it's kind of overflowing in Brighton. Brighton's full of musicians and artists, students. It's a student town. There's like two major universities, and now there's like another four or five colleges. There's at least two music colleges in the city centre spread over. So it's very much an overflowing kind of spot for music creativity. I
Mhm.
moved to Brighton to study music, and I wanted to go there because I knew the scene would be really like alive for shows. There's loads of venues. It's quite easy to get gigs because the venues are kind of small. So it's great. It's also really weird. It's a really weird place, which is good for me. So like you'll go out and you'll see someone rollerblading dressed as a cat, and you'll be like, that's not the weirdest thing I'm going to see today. So Brighton. So yeah, it's good. But Anna's always been based in London. So the three of us, Hannah, Gary, and me, we've been in Brighton. But Anna has been in London up until quite recently, and then she's moved back to her hometown in Belgium for a little bit just to make music. Basically, it's a bit easier for her to do it out there than in London. London's just so crazy expensive, and
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
So the album art for Hex is absolutely fantastic. What was the concept behind it?
Um, it was a bit random. I didn't really plan it. Basically we always want to make something, I think, with us that's slightly unsettling but also alluring. So you're kind of like, this is interesting, and kind of like I'm intrigued, but I'm also a little bit unsettled by it. So I had this idea at the end of the Hex music video shoot. We were with the videographer Scott Chalmers, who's amazing. He does all our photos and videos and stuff. And at the end of the shoot, everyone was kind of knackered, and I was like, okay, guys, just before we go, I'd really like it if we could all just like get naked and make some weird pictures. And the band were like, really? So like, I basically was just like, look, I know it's going to be a bit weird and awkward, but like I bought some, skin colored underwear, so it's not going to be total, this. Can we just do some weird pictures where our bodies are kind of intertwined and we look maybe like one being? That was the initial idea, just to see what happened. So we took some pictures, and some of them were great, some of them were just like not good at all. And then Scott was like, okay, everybody, stand behind Mishkin and put the arms up, and we'll make like a many-armed goddess. So that's what ended up happening, and it was so symmetrical and so perfect, the picture when it came out, that we just put the like sigils around the edge, and I just think it's a really striking image. And I was just set on that straight away being the album cover. It was like there was no question about it. It was just really striking, and I think it's like the visual representation of the album. It looks like the music, so yeah.
Yeah. The electric cello brings a really cool element to the music. So how did it come about? Was it always part of Crimson Veil?
Um, no. So Hannah's first instrument is violin, actually. She plays in Hannah Purana, which is her own project, electric violin, quite heavy sort of rock stuff, but with a violin sort of leading things. She also plays the harp, and then the cello's like her second instrument, I think. But when we started going into the metal scene, we just wanted something that was a little bit less trebly than the violin, and we don't have a bass player. Gary plays bass and guitar, and we usually put the bass through on the backing tracks, but we just thought it'd be really interesting to make music with a cello, because it's just that little bit darker, I think, than the violin. So that's how that started. But now we're starting to put the other instruments back into the set. So the next album's going to feature harp and violin a lot more than just the cello, and we're all multi-instrumentalists, so we're hoping to get really silly on the next record with all the instruments. But we just, we haven't really had the stage show to do that yet. We've only done one tour. We supported Lordi, and it was like a half an hour set at the beginning of the thing. We need to get like on off stage. There's no way we could be like, and now bring out the harp. Yeah, so we're planning on getting more ridiculous, but for now it's just cello.
Well, I'm all about ridiculous. There's so many, like Hex is such an eclectic collection of songs. Like, what were some of the influences that shaped it?
So we're all into really different music, all four of us, and we're all creators of the songs. So I think that made it particularly unusual blend of everything. Anna's really into prog music. Her dad's a prog guitarist, and she's quite influenced by that sort of stuff. Hannah's classically trained, so grew up listening to classical music. Gary's background is jazz, classical guitar, and metal. He's the real like metal head in the band. And then I grew up singing in church choirs and doing a lot of choral stuff. So the blend is just really weird, but we all love metal. We all love the same sorts of metal. That's where we cross over. So I think that's where the influences come by. But talking of bands that we all listen to, that we all love in the tour van, would be definitely Opeth. They're like right up there with our favorite bands. Gojira, Igor, Porcupine Tree, those sort of people.
Yeah. You said church choir, and I'm like, that's where she learned to death growl. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
yes.
obviously. Yeah, I was at the back, just making growling noises. I wonder why it didn't last, but yeah.
No, I know, right? I won the choir. They only needed me for one day. It was great.
Right. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, yeah.
So, who are some of your vocal influences? Because, yeah, your growls are fantastic.
Oh, thank you. That's a really good question. I don't know if I'm really influenced by that many vocalists. My love of music is really to do, like, I do love singers and stuff, but I'm really into the arrangement of the songs. If I'm influenced, it's usually by like the instrumental parts of the piece. I mean, I love Randy Blythe's voice from Lamb of God. He's got just such a evil sounding fry. So like, he's like for me the best, metal screamer or whatever you call it. So I really love that, but I don't think I sound anything like Randy Blythe. So influence wise, I don't really know. Like so many bands I listen to, but I wouldn't say that any of them have like the vocal element that I was sort of influenced by. I mean, I love Gojira, but again, I don't sound anything like them
Oh,
either. Um,
utterly insane was the opening ceremony. Like that is.
I was so excited. That was just amazing. Yeah, I was so excited. I texted my parents,
Yeah.
and was like, "Look, mum and dad, metal's on the TV. Like it's a thing." I was like, "That's what I do." And they were like, "Well, very good, darling."
Yeah. Yes.
I was
Still
so
sounds
excited to
awful.
see
Oh,
like such a niche, yeah, such a niche band. Like, I mean, they're not niche to the metal scene, but like to the world, like they're quite like odd and progressive and really like left field music. So it was so exciting to see that. I was like, metal's becoming way more acceptable and mainstream, and people are just loving these bands. So it was really great, really, really
and
cool.
it struck me because it would have been so easy. Like, let's say the Super Bowl have Metallica for the halftime show. People are like, oh my
Right.
God, they've got a metal band, but they get them out and play Nothing Else Matters. Like it could have been so
Yeah.
easy to
Yeah.
just ballad that shit up or get them to do. No, no, they sent Gojira out and had them play that in front
I
of
know.
1 billion viewers.
So
Like
cool.
that has to be the biggest in terms of single audience, that has to be the biggest metal performance in history.
Right. Yeah, it was totally historical moment. I was like, yeah, I was so excited because they're just fantastic. I've seen them live and know how electric they are. So what
Mm,
was so great about it is like they got in front of all those people, and I bet you nearly all of those people thought this is amazing, regardless if they loved metal or not, because they're just that good. If you can just
mm,
get them in front of a crowd, like they'll just win it over. It was so cool to see. It was so exciting and so cool
mm.
for them. Like good for
Oh,
them. So cool.
yeah, can you imagine being a French band and like that is a proud Frenchman moment.
Yeah. Also, go France. Like, way to be alternative, It's fantastic.
Plus, I do like that as a country, they like to remind people that once they just chop all the rich people's heads off.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so great. Yeah.
People are watching that going, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. What's going to happen next?
Well, I, I, this is a question I kind of, or a point that I come up with when, when interviewing women in bands. I feel that I feel like there are now more women in metal than at any point in the history of metal. But on the other hand, we had Knotfest here recently, and much was made of the fact that Lizzie Hale from Hailstorm was
Yeah.
the only woman on stage the entire festival. So I feel like on the one hand, it's awesome because we have, so many more women in the game. But on the other hand, it feels like you guys are still very much, this tiny little minority in a big boys club. I mean, how do you feel about it? I mean, I feel we've at least come a long way from a band like Kitty being introduced as, oh, they're like Britney Spears meets Slayer. Oh,
Yeah. What?
yeah, that's what they thought.
Yeah. 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 I mean, definitely. Like, I mean, as a female, you're just constantly pissed off anyway. So it's kind of just like normal life, but with more metal. So, I mean, like I could go on, but yeah, it is a little frustrating. I do feel like sometimes people bring that as like the first thing about you, and they don't think of the music. You're female first, and that's the unusual thing, and then the music is kind of secondary. And what's really frustrating is I just really want to be seen as a musician.
Mm,
We all do. Which was actually really interesting when we signed to Raining Phoenix. We had this conversation, and they were like, how do you see the band, and what kind of what things do you want us to do and what do you not want us to do? And the first thing we just said is like, we're not a chick band.
mhm.
So like, we don't want to go down that avenue. And it's fine to like, be featured in like female scenes and all kinds of stuff. That's great. They're lifting up females, but we don't want to be like pigeonholed into like
Yeah.
female fronted metal. We're just musicians. We're not, and then we happen to be female. But it's funny, but it comes up a lot. And I think it's important to talk about it. Like, I don't want to like completely ignore the fact, because it's good to like lift up women in metal and to notice that they're there. It's really important. But at the same time, it does sometimes dominate things. We get asked a lot in interviews. Like, I had one and they were like, oh, so there are three women in your band. I was like, yes. So, and one boy. I was like, yes. And then it's like, why aren't they all female? And I was like, why would we do that? And they were like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, never mind. And it was just really awkward. But you know, when you're like, why is that? Like, why do we have to be all female when we're, you know, in a
Look,
band?
this
Can we?
is true.
And this has
But
happened so
hey,
many times. They've said, you know, why don't you make the band all female? And I'm like, because we're not a female band.
yeah,
We're just musicians, you know. So yeah, it is a bit. You can see I'm slightly pissed off.
it's all good. You know, it's you know, they might have brought that up because I remember Kitty when they did their big they did a documentary, and at one point they had a male member, and you know he was great and they all loved him. But I remember that you know I forget who it was that they were interviewing was like, oh, he was great, but I remember also thinking like, oh, I liked it when it was all girls. I don't know,
Yeah,
but I will full credit to Raining Phoenix and John Howarth and the like. Nowhere. I don't believe your gender is mentioned once in any of the press releases.
yeah.
So
They
you
were
won't even
amazing.
have to
It's part
wait
of the
for
reason we
a
felt
rate
so
music fan
comfortable to
like
sign,
me.
you know.
Yeah.
Like we were just like they get it, you know, this is really really good, and they listened, and it was great. And you know, there's loads of like females working on their for the label anyway, so it was really easy conversation, you know, straight away. We're just with the whole room was mixed gender, and it was just perfect, you know. In fact, I think there were more women in the meeting than there were men, not that that matters, but you know, it was
Yeah.
very easy to get across. And it's kind of you have to be quite careful. You don't want to market yourself completely as like just the female element, because you can end up getting really pigeonholed, and then people are just going to your shows because they're like, yeah, cool, chicks on
Yeah,
stage. And
women.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's
Yeah.
just like, I'd rather you listen to the music, which again is quite another reason that like with our music, it's it's very much about the music. It's not about like the image, you know.
Mm,
The image is an extra bit, but it's really, really about like this weird world that we're creating regardless of our genders, you know.
yeah. There is so much in it. Like, seriously, I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass. You should be very, very proud of Hex.
Thank you.
Um, I can tell just the amount of work that you've put into it, you know, and how all the different dynamics of the song. And I remember, you know, listening to the album and just thinking, holy shit, this must have been a lot of work. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of work. We're
yeah,
still recovering.
yeah, I haven't slept in a year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I couldn't listen to it when we finished it for a while, you know? Like I was like, I'm proud of this, but I don't even know if it's good anymore. Just can't tell, especially the last track, Task, is like this 12-minute long sort of marathon. And God, it took so long. You know, it was a fucking task. Like we like to joke about that. It's like it was a task. And yeah, by the end of it, we were just like, just take it. I don't even want to listen to it anymore. I don't even know if it's good. And then now I can listen to it now, and I'm really proud of it. Now I can see that the work has paid off. But at the time when you're that close to it, it's like, oh my God, just yeah.
I feel like one of those moments was probably you in a red dress in what looked like a very cold ocean going,
Yeah.
fuck this.
Yeah, totally. I think you can actually tell by my face in the video that it was 4 a.m. I woke up, did my own makeup, like in the dark, like
Yeah.
this, just like put on a dress, and then the videographer was like, the weather looks like it's going to be really good. So I was like, great. Turned up, it was raining, it was freezing, there was like an icy wind, and I had to go into the sea about 20 times to do the last bit. Honestly, by the end of it, I was just like, I couldn't even sing. I was just like shivering. So yeah. Anyway, it adds to the effect of the really gutting song, so it's all right.
You're looking at the wardrobe thing going, you know, women can wear winter jackets. Why couldn't
Yeah,
we wear one?
I know. I was like, why don't I just why am I doing this to myself?
Why did
But
it have to be
anyway,
a dress?
yeah, yeah, I know. It's so funny. But there we go. The next one's
What?
even worse. I'll wait till it comes out. But honestly, what I did for
Ooh.
that video, that was
Oh,
that was
damn.
insane. Yeah, yeah. Anyway,
Um, can you see Crimson Veil coming to Australia?
I really hope so. I've never toured Australia in any of the bands that I've been in, and I would love that. I've got some Australian fans, so it'd be great to finally get to meet them. I hope so. Yeah, we're sort of really hungry to tour, but we're waiting till the album comes out and then seeing where we can go from there. Essentially, we're still pretty, even though we've been going as a band under a different name for like a really long time. This is a totally new band, So yeah, we're just sort of working hard to get the name out there first, build up a bit of buzz, and then I think we can book some tours. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to do Australia. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. Give me one second. I need to let this dog out. He's whining.
Yeah, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, go. Yeah. Oh dear. So, what you were mentioning, I don't know if you were mentioning or you just mentioned it in passing, but talking about music to follow up Hex. Have you got any ideas as to where you'd like to go next?
Yeah, we've already started writing, got like 5 or 6 songs, kind of demo stages, which is really fun. So I feel like with Hex, because we were writing singles at a time for a really long time, we were just releasing singles under our old project. And then when the label opportunity came up, they were like, we need the album now, we need to finish it. So there was like the last 3 or 4 songs I felt were a little bit rushed for us. So we've started now already just so that we can get the follow-up ready. But essentially what I was saying about more instruments would be great. Like I'd love to bring out the other sort of skills of the musicians in the band, create slightly, maybe songs that we just give a little bit more time to and they develop a little bit slower, this kind of thing. But yeah, already it's just, it's just more ridiculous than the last album, really. So, but the songs are sounding great. Like it's really, it's coming out really easily, these songs now, which is fantastic. So I think we've really hit our groove with this now. Like the first album was a bit like, what are we doing? This is really weird, and now we're like, okay, what polyrhythm are we going to do next time? And, really geeky stuff. We're just basically meeting up and then just geeking out over songs that we love, like prog songs or prog metal and stuff like that. And then going, okay, well, how can we create this as Crimson Veil and make it catchy enough to be listened to, but also really weird to appeal, to make it unique. So yeah, essentially it's just going to be more weird and will alienate even more people. Yeah.
I don't know if this was ever confirmed or if it was just a rumor, but I remember hearing back in the day that the Dillinger escape plan used to choose their time signatures with a pair of dice.
That's cool. I love Dillinger. Actually,
Yeah,
as a vocalist, he is
right.
sublime. Actually, if that was actually any influence on my vocals, I have to say Dillinger is like,
Oh,
yeah, so good.
just amazing. A fit bugger too. Like, oh my
Oh, really?
Lord, he's
I've
got
never
some.
seen them, sadly.
Yeah, I never did either. They are one of my greatest regrets. I had
Yeah.
a three-way clash at Soundwave, which was the big metal festival that we had here for a few years. It was Lamb of God, Limp Bizkit, and the Dillinger Escape Plan, and I had to pick between those three, and I
Yeah.
went with Lamb of God, and
Nice.
which was great. They were fantastic, but fuck, if I'd known Dillinger were going to break up a few years
Yeah.
later, I would have been, God damn it.
Yeah. Yeah. They played in Brighton one time, like back in the day, like ages ago. And I think I just wasn't really ready for Dillinger back then. I wasn't listening to such like extreme metal music. And that was back in their really extreme kind of like math metal sort of thing. And I was like, I don't think I'm really up for this. And again, yeah, I really regret it. But they're fantastic.
Yeah, my first exposure was the video to Panasonic Youth, and was
Mhm.
just what.
Mind blowing. Yeah, absolutely mind blowing. Yeah.
um, Mishkin, this has been fantastic. What is the heritage of your name, by the way? It sounds very very Russian. Or
So my name is actually from a Russian storybook.
nice,
And yeah, my dad would call me it as a pet name, and then eventually I changed it to my real name. When I
nice.
left home, I just thought this is more me than my birth name, and that's kind of how it happened. So yeah,
Oh,
it's from a
beautiful.
book. But my dad is half Greek, half Irish, so none of it makes sense. But yeah.
Like the music. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's just really random.
I love it. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you very much for your time. And
Thanks for
again,
having me.
congratulations. Hex is stunning, and I can't wait for people to hear it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for having me. It's
No
been great.
worries. Wonderful day. Bye.
All right.